3. One, two, three. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to another episode of MXDTV. It is episode 22. My name is Marc Delgado. I'm your host. I got a lot of things planned for this evening, and I'm going to get right to it. I'm not going to dilly-dally. I watched my last show, and I was appalled at how indecisive I appeared. Looks and sounds perfect, says my executive producer, Melanie Delgado. I've been struggling with technology. Last couple shows have been rocky. I had to abandon one. And then last one was okay, but it wasn't great. Still was a little funky. And then I had this cool video I made, and I wanted to post it right before the show. And that didn't work out either. So the world's against me, but I already knew that. So welcome to episode 22. I can't believe we've done 22 of these shows. Thank you for joining me. It helps that you're here. So I'm going to start. Sorry about that. I'm going to start with Bob Dylan's song. And I wasn't sure how to go about this show. So, I put on Bob Dylan while I was preparing. And when in doubt, listen to Bob Dylan. For me, that always works. And so I'm going to start with my favorite Bob Dylan song. Well, it ain't no use in sitting and wondering why, babe. If you don't know by now. It ain't no use in sitting and wondering why, babe. It'll never do anyhow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason that I'm traveling on. Don't think twice, now it's alright. Well, it ain't no use in turning on your light, babe. A light I never know. And it ain't no use in turning on your light, babe. I'm on the dark side of the road. I wish that there was something that you could do or say to help me change my mind and stay. But you never did too much talking anyway. Don't think twice, now it's alright. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, gal, like you never done before. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, gal. I can't hear you anymore. I've been thinking and wondering, walking down this road. I once loved a woman, a child, I'm told. I gave her my heart, but she wanted my soul. Don't think twice, now it's alright. So long, honey, baby. Where I'm bound, I can't tell. Goodbye is too good a word, babe. I'll just say fairly well. Now I ain't saying you treated me unkind. You could have have done better, but I don't mind. But you just kind of wasted all of my precious time. Don't think twice, now it's alright. Let's see. Jason is here from the set. Still, that's right. So Jason knows me. That's my good friend Jason Albright, and we lived together for a time in Sacramento. And he knows how bad I wanted to learn how to play that song. And thanks, Melanie. Melanie says, beautiful. Thank you very much. Jason knows how long I've wanted to play that song, and he knew me when I couldn't. Sorry, I'm touching my nose a lot, but it's itchy. He knew me when I couldn't play that song, and we had this thing called the set, and we would sit around playing guitar all hours of the night, and there was a set full of songs, and that was one of them. We were trying to come up with the perfect set of music, and that was definitely on the list. That's right. We've been through so much, old Jason. So the great thing about that song is that all I ever wanted to do was write a song that good. I have yet to do it, but I did write my own breakup song, which I'm going to play for you now. That was inspired by that song. Asleep in a cave, I've been here for days. Don't know which song to sing or how to set you free. Asleep in a cave, I've been here for days. Don't know which song to sing or how to set you free. From the nightmare's child, from the high wire wires that you climb, and the way that you scared me the most was when you smiled. And you sang the same thing to me, no matter how hard you tried to save this symphony. And she played a silent reverie each and every time you tried to rescue me. From the nightmare's child, high wire wires that we climb, and the way that you scared me the most was when you smiled. And now I know it's time to quit this ruined verse that we rehearsed and we tried to make it rhyme. Well, look who has joined us. John Henry was a steel driving man. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is my good friend Tom Medrano has joined us. Tom Medrano The song I just played was the first record I ever made, and Tom Medrano played on that record, and stole the show on that record. The great Tom Medrano, one of my best friends, who also I lived with, and still is my friend. So there you have it. Not bad. That's a friend. Anyway, we lived together in Fresno for a long time, and we had some wild times too. We've been through it. Thanks for joining us, Tom. And if Tom's one of my favorite musicians, and he's an amazing talent, and hopefully we can have him on the show soon. If you're still up for that, Tom, we'd love to have you. And let's see. Oh, thanks, Vicky. That's my sister, who's also been through hell with me and stuck by me. Guitar genius Thomas Milo Medrano, no doubt. He is a goddamn guitar genius. My man. He played the heck out of six. He did. He was very EVH on that. It wasn't his choice. I think it was Peter made you do that. But you did. We got to get that. We got to get that record up on digital platforms so people can hear the work you did on that, Tom. It's just amazing. It's all smoke and mirrors. True, maybe so, but nonetheless, you're still an amazing guitar player. And the best moment was there's a song on that record called Blackbirds, and he does a guitar solo on that record that's just mind-boggling. And I was there in the room when it happened, and it was, if you doubt that magic exists, you weren't in the room that night. So speaking of Fresno, I'm really touching my nose a lot, and I'm going to catch hell for it from my wife later, but it can't be helped. I don't know what happens. As soon as I go live on MXDTV, my nose begins to itch. Maybe because I start talking about cocaine so much. I don't know. So I'm going to read you something. I've read this before, and I'm trying to get back into it. This is a story from my book, and it's not done, and this is just a little part of it. And this is a little part of it, and this is definitely a I was in high school in 1986, 1987 in Fresno, California. And this was the 80s, and this is when I was growing up. And I was doing a lot of blow. I was doing so much blow, and I was listening. There was so much. I guess memory is tied to your preference in music, but for me, I'm an 80s guy all the way. I love 80s music the most, really. I think it was the total music renaissance, but this is a story called The Importance of Adam Clayton. And Adam Clayton, if you don't know, is the bass player for U2 and the secret weapon, in my opinion, of the band. And I saw U2 twice in the 80s. I saw them on the Joshua Tree tour, and I saw them on the Achtung Baby tour, and there's no better live band than U2. Anyway, that's how I feel. I know it's not cool to like them, but I love them. Anyway, this is a little story I'm working on called The Importance of Adam Clayton. It goes like this. My history teacher thinks I'm an alcoholic. He calls me Stoner Delgado. In English, my teacher has pulled me aside and tells me I should read Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. He asks me if I'm okay. I have a fifth of tequila in my locker in the gymnasium. I only go in there to have a drink. I don't really go to class. I'm not really sleeping much these days. At night, I work in a Mexican restaurant. I am a prep and sauté cook. I am the youngest person there. We snort coke in the bathroom and then go out after work to the Black Angus or Willikers. I don't like dancing. I have 3 friends, busboys at the restaurant. We all have the same name, the same first name. We go to the lake, and we go out after work, and we go to Sam's to drop acid and play dominoes. Everything is a blur. I smoke a lot of cigarettes. It's hard to sleep. My dad wants me to quit the restaurant. My boss, Marcel, wants to teach me how to work the line. He loves Prince. He dances just like Prince. He drives a ninja motorcycle and wears a black leather jacket with a lot of zippers and buckles. I think he knows karate or taekwondo. I am in love with Marina. She drives a red convertible Beetle and takes me everywhere with her. Sometimes after drinking and dancing, we sit in her Beetle and she will kiss me and touch my hair. She has long fingernails and she laughs a lot. Her ex-boyfriend looks like Dolph Lundgren from Rocky III. And every time we see him at the Black Angus or Willikers, he tries to fight me. Once, Marina slapped him in the face. Marina is a graduate student at Fresno State in the writing department. I've shown her a couple of my poems, and she even went with me to the art museum to hear Phil Levine once. We did some coke out in the parking lot beforehand, and afterward we sat in her Beetle smoking cigarettes, and she recited from memory the first stanza of The Wasteland. She has red fingernails and she runs them through my hair, and she kisses me and she laughs. It feels like it is getting away from me, life. Suddenly everything feels really out of control, like it's out of my hands. I don't sleep. I'm out all night. My dad wants me to quit the Mexican restaurant. I spend most of my time with Marina, but I don't sleep with her. I sleep with all the other girls I work with. I shouldn't do that because now they all hate me. Stacy won't look at me. Lisa won't look at me. Marc and I have tickets to see U2 at the LA Coliseum. It's the coke. I love talking and snorting and drinking and smoking. I stay up all hours of the night. I get so wound up with all of the things I am thinking and feeling. Tom and I had a fight. We beat the shit out of each other, and I slammed a hole in the wall with his head, and then he pushed me through a window, and the glass shattered around us, and we lay there laughing and bleeding and panting, and he looked at me, his eyes wild and as big as flying saucers, and he said, "I never want this night to end." And it doesn't, in a way. That night goes on for another 20 years or so. More than that. Tom is dead now. He died over 15 years ago. He drowned face down in a jacuzzi. I wasn't there. We were no longer friends. We had it out, so to speak. A bunch of times, really. Too many betrayals. Too many fights. It can't last, those kind of relationships. We had slept with each other's girlfriends and taken too many cheap shots to the face to ever really recover. And we hated each other, didn't we? Marina picks me up and she is listening to the Smiths. This night has opened my eyes. She gets off work earlier than me because she is a server. I stay on later. In fact, I'm there the longest, scrubbing all the cutting boards and big pots and knives, packing up and wrapping the canisters of guacamole and cheese and diced onions, moving and condensing the big Rubbermaid trash cans full of tortilla chips and washing out the empty ones and preparing them for the next day so I can make more tortilla chips. I skewer tortillas with a large two-pronged fork and then cut them up into triangles and then deep fry them. My hands and arms are covered with burns from the bubbling and popping grease jumping out of the vats and onto my arms. Marina comes back and picks me up, and she is already drunk and laughing, and she is listening to the Smiths. Oh, save your life, because you've only got one. The dream is gone, but the baby is real. Oh, you did a good thing. She could have been a poet or she could have been a fool. Oh, you did a bad thing. I'm not happy and I'm not sad. Where are we going tonight, hero? She asks, and I look at her and grin through the smoke in the dark. That's the best Morrissey I got, unfortunately. Let's see, we've got some new comments here, and I want to get to that. Let's see. That one we did. I can't see what that is. It's some type of face that. Excited and ready. Upcoming release in the future. Thanks, Phil. I need a cigarette after that one, right? Oh, Joseph. Joseph. I hope I don't butcher your last name, Joe. Delgado. Anyway, Joe and I have become good friends through Instagram, and he's a pretty great musician and a great guy. And he says, here, love me some U2. Saw the Octoon Baby tour at the Meadowlands. Yeah, man, I saw them in Oakland on that tour. Definitely a top. Yeah, no doubt. So good. The other thing, Joseph, is there's a Paris concert of theirs from like 2017. I think it's a movie too, but I just heard it on the radio when I was driving. And if you get a chance, if you have any doubt that there's no match for U2 live, listen to that. I mean, I know you don't, but I'm talking to others now. Definitely need a cigarette. More vibro. Totally. I know I was failing miserably, but I did try to commit at least to singing it. But it wasn't great, I know. But that song, I love that song. All right, so moving right along. Thanks for indulging me on that. That's a story I've been working on for a while. I'm going to now play you some more songs. And since we're talking about drugs, as I do, I'm going to play you maybe the best drug song of all time, at least top 5 for me. And I'm playing it because, well, one, because it's one of my favorite topics, but two, it's on my live record that's coming out. Now, if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see a video of me playing this. My new live record, Live at Pete's Candy Store Volume 2, is coming out. It's coming out at the end of this month. Melanie, do we have the cover of that record? We can put it up for people to see. It's coming out at the end of this month. On my YouTube channel, I have about half of the songs up. I have videos for them. I'll have videos for all of the songs. And at the end of this month, the record will be available to stream and download. And if you were there at the show, you'll get a free download. Oh, okay. Can't share the photo. All right. Thanks. No big deal. Waiting for my man. $26 in my hand. Up to Lexington, 125. If you're sick and dirty, more dead than alive. 'Cause I'm waiting for my man. Hey, white boy, what you doing uptown? Hey, white boy, chasing our women around. Oh, pardon me, sir, it's furthest from my mind. I'm just waiting for a dear, dear friend of mine. 'Cause I'm waiting for my man. Here he comes, all dressed in black, PR shoes and a big straw hat. He's never early, he's always late. One thing I can tell you is you'll always have to wait. 'Cause I'm waiting for my man. Up to a brownstone, up 3 flights of stairs. Everybody bodies pins you, but nobody cares. she's got the works, give you sweet taste. Then I gotta run, man, I ain't got no time to waste. 'Cause I'm waiting for my man. Baby, don't you holler, baby, don't you scream and shout. I'm feeling good, I'm gonna work it on out. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling oh so fine. Until tomorrow, but that's just another time. 'Cause I'm waiting for my man. Clouds are usual, white and sinister. Delivered in accumulated waves, bursting forth into bright white foam. So many violations of the spirit. The stone of imagination broken to rubble. The way Kay cleared out in a U-Haul, leaving only dust mangled on the floor. And a note. The note said this: Mark, I hope you get syphilis. 3 days with an eye to the peephole. The curved world outside. Well, the herd I run with is full of chewed tongues, mister. I'm a trailer park Aeneas flung from the ruined city of noise. Destitute and beleaguered Troy, a burning white riddle behind me. 'Cause I was always looking for a home, man. I was always looking for a home. I think I finally found a home. So be kind, whoever you may be. Deliver us from our trouble. Tell us under what heaven we've come at last. Tell us under what heaven we've come at last. Burning fever's gone from the heat waves and the freight trains and time and space. turns and it teeters on, and the wheel takes a slightly different turn away. Hey, what's that speed? Just traveling on. And what's that sound that keeps her hanging all along by the freeways? What's that speed? Just traveling on. And what's that sound that keeps her hanging all along by the freeways and the freight train? Stayed too long. Stayed too long. Stayed too long. That's a little song called "The Boats in San Pedro Harbor," which is also off of the record I did with Tom Medrano called "High in a Neon Dive." Felt like the right song to play there. I'm going to read you a couple poems now. I have an enemy. I have an enemy. Seems to be my natural enemy. We have wasps in our yard. Now, 2 years ago, we had a. I didn't know this. I'm from California. I don't know that it's any excuse. Maybe they have this in California too, but I never encountered it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yes, they're yellow jackets, correct. They are a form of wasp, but there are those little ones. They're called yellow jackets, and they're very aggressive. They're nasty. And anyway, a couple years ago, I was mowing the lawn here in New York, upstate New York, and my daughter was out there with me, and she had one of those little play mowers that you push, and the bubbles come out. And I was pushing the real mower, and we would do, this was kind of our thing. We would do it all the time, and she'd be out there with me, and she'd chase me around with the play mower. And unbeknownst to me, there was a wasp nest in the ground, and I ran over it with the lawnmower, and I was stung by a wasp, by a yellow jacket, and I screamed because it surprised me, and it hurt, and it scared me. And when I did that, I looked down, and it was in my boot, and it came flying out. And so Mary heard me yell, and she came running over to me. Excuse me, but she shouldn't have done that, because what happened was I had run over the wasp nest, and they swarmed us. And she came running up, and then she screamed in pain, and I looked over, and she was covered in wasps, and they were just stinging her, and they were stinging me. It was like something out of a movie. I'd never experienced it. And I grabbed her, picked her up, and we ran. And I ran, and we ran into the house. And we got into the house, and she screamed. And there was more wasps on her, and I was killing them and screaming at them. And Anyway, it was a horrific experience. And it ended up okay. It was really awful, and my kid has been traumatized ever since, and so have I. But we have a new nest out there in the yard, and I killed them. I killed them all. I poisoned them. So we try to be natural, and we try to respect the earth, and we try to live and let live. But I bought a can of Raid, and I sprayed it into their hole and killed all of them. So I'm going to read you this poem called Wasps by Larry Levis. Larry Levis is from the Central Valley, and this is my go-to book. If you've watched MXDTV before, you've heard me read from this book before, and I'm going to, like Bob Dylan, this is my go-to in times of uncertainty. So this is a poem called Wasps. In the orchards, we would take a rolled-up newspaper and light it, and shove this torch into a wasp's nest. In a moment, the hive would be thick with dead wasps, only one or two flying out of the fire. Now, when I walk in the shade of those trees, I know they will go on dying so slowly no one will notice. I wish them a long custody over the grass, because it is easy to wish anything for trees. Today, I said I would sprawl naked, with lips open, the sun on them, as the world is sold to the flies, who sell it to the spiders and lizards, and I will watch a lizard's throat as it swallows perfectly, closing its eyes just once as it does this, then opening them. I love the way it can do one thing well, one thing that won't matter. And if next year new wasps swarm slowly out of their hive as usual, making one thin line of music while I sit listening to it, hearing also my neighbor slap his child in the hush that follows. And if I tell no one, will something live on inside my silence? One black wasp unburned in a hive of wasps, looking like any other. I'm going to read another of his poems at the end, but I wanted to read that one. And then there's another one I want to read. I wanted to read this last week, but I ran out of time. It's by a poet, and I'm going to butcher his name. I found this in the recent edition of the Paris Review. And the poem is called Tablet. And it's by a poet named Chard Deniord. C-H-A-R-D, little D-E-N-I-O-R-D. I've never heard of him, but I looked him up, and he's been around, and he's got a lot of books of poems. Anyway, I loved this poem, and I'm going to read it for you now. It's called Tablet, and the epigraph is from Gilgamesh, and it goes like this. All that is left to one who grieves is convalescence. No change of heart or spiritual conversion, for the heart has changed and the soul has been converted to a thing that sees how much it costs to lose a friend it loved. That's the epigraph. It's from Gilgamesh. It's at the front of the poem, and I feel lately that I've been grieving a lot, and I can't shake it. And when you're grieving, it's a very particular feeling. It kind of pervades. It just like you can't really seem to get anything going. It seems to me. I can't anyway. Anyway, I'm going to read this poem, Tablet. Had the king of Uruk never wrestled Enkidu, the wild man of the steppe, and just barely defeated him on points, he never would have fallen in love with him, with a love that was greater than that for a woman, nor asked him to go hunting with him in the sacred forest for the monster guardian, whom Baba, the beginning of history as an ageless story, would never have happened. Had the king never suffered the loss of himself in another, he never would have known himself as someone less than himself without his beloved, nor hurt with a grief that rendered him listless. Although he called his suffering nothing, with a smile to the face of the Queen of Heaven, who craved his devotion but couldn't have it, his only solace for being human. Had he not grieved so deeply, he never would have grown into the comedian he did, nor swum to the bottom of the sacred river to pick the flower that the shaman said would bless him forever, nor almost drowned while diving for that blossom with a godlike breath, nor tasted the salt in the river that cursed him with a thirst for wine and hatred of mirrors, nor mastered the art of curling his tongue around the diphthong in death, nor learned how to say the single sound of E, A, and U at the center of beauty, nor loosened his grip on the thorny flower as he slept on the beach, oblivious of the snake traversing his body, then hissing to the darkness, "Only I am eternal," nor dreamed of grilling a gazelle stewed in garlic, then eating it with his wife and children in a joyous reunion at the marble table in his hyacinth garden. Had he never slept so deeply, he would have felt the serpent absconding with his flower into the forest, where she devoured it whole, then shed her skin. He never would have made his way back home with his grief for his friend, nor gained the knowledge of how to read the text of the clouds as one long sentence that spelled his end, nor discovered the secret of how to string the smallest things together as he spent the rest of his life ruling his kingdom, building a wall around his city, telling stories to his brilliant children, planting his garden throughout the morning, happy with his title comedian king, lying in his hammock, dreaming and waking, waking and dreaming. I love that poem. I really was taken by it when I read it recently, and I've read it 20 times since, maybe more. It's, to me, a perfect poem. It's beautiful, brilliant. Yep, that's right. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to play, let's see. Boy, time flies when we're doing MXDTV, and I'm really grateful to all of you that are here and listening in. And I'm going to play you a couple new songs. I've played these songs before. Let's see. Oh, please tell me the name of the poet, Melanie says. The name of the poet, and I butchered it at the top. Oh, no, I can't find it as I took the paper out. The name of the poet is Chard de Njord. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. I tried to look it up so I could learn how to pronounce it, but it's spelled, the first name is spelled Chard, and the last name looks like this. Little D. I'll show you. I wrote it down. Can you see that? That's his name. Chard de Njord. Chard. And then last name Deniord. He's brilliant. And has a lot of poems and has a really cool website. If you can find that website, Melanie put it up. If you can remember how I just spelled, if you can remember how I just spelled the name. But yeah, I love that. I love that poem very much. And so I'm going to play you guys a couple new songs. And I've played these before, but I've been working on them in the studio with Justin Tracy. And so I'm going to play them again. And they really... This next one really kind of nails it for me, the way I've been feeling. And I just have this feeling these days I can't shake. And You know, it's nothing new, I guess. Human condition and the way we treat each other is nothing new. But I'm gonna play a couple of these songs. This song is called "Bring Me the Head of the Lapwing." Disappear in your ear. The more that you think you're right, you're wrong, and all the time spent dreaming. Cain put his brother down. God appeared and asked around. Shallow breathing, the way that you've been feeling. Not the headlines on the ceiling, keeping you from sleeping good. The light that burst in and lit up the room. It's hard to rest with a fire. Dark that grows darker inside your chest, so you breathe. Just breathe. Turned my head and I walked away, east into the evening, east into the evening, east into the evening. There's a link to the Paris Review if you want to see the poem. Thanks, Melanie, my executive producer. And that's the poet's name, correct? That's it. Chard de Nord. I don't know how to say that. I'm hoping I'm close. But it's a brilliant poem. That song's called "Bring Me the Head of the Lapwing." I read a folk tale. Oh, Paul's here. Hey, Paul. Thanks, man. Paul Alarengus. Is that? I always wonder how to say your last name. Alarengus. I think that's. Am I close? Anyway, Paul's got a great radio show and a group on Facebook. Why don't you, if you want to post a link to your radio show, Paul, we'd love for you to do that. And thank thank you for the kind words and for tuning in and for sharing. Always sharing the. Thanks for always sharing the MXDTV link. Oh, thanks, Russell Little. Russell Little's here of the band Vesper Lake and Black Oak Hymnal, and also a really great friend of mine who's been with me for a long time and is still my friend despite my shortcomings. You have to roll the R's if you say it. Paul Alorengis. How's that? Alorengis. Paul, I have this other song that I'm going to play now. It's called Shaking Hands, and the version we're working on has your voice in it, and I need to get you to sign off on it, but I think it sounds really cool. Paul participated in something I'm doing called the questionnaire. Or Stalwart, that's right. He's like a Texas... It's Russ Little, you're like a Texas Ranger. Paul participated in something I'm doing called the questionnaire, and it's a series of questions. And since Paul has his own radio show and he has the capability, he recorded his answers and sent them to me, and it was great. And also Joseph, if you're still here, Joseph De Gaetano also answered, who is a musician and records and records music, and he sent me his recorded answers too. Paul, your answer, your voice ended up on this song. This song's called Shaking Hands. If you want, skip the long, drawn-out explanation, please. The time in France, with all the beggars and the tramps, it's not as interesting as you might think. And I know you see yourself in me. I know you see yourself in me. What's the chance of shaking hands? You arrived among the isles of spirits so unexpectedly, and I just emerged from beneath the earth, prisoner who finally tunneled free. And I know you see yourself in me. I know you see yourself in me. What's the chance of shaking hands across the space we can't defend? Oh, what's the use of trampling hands across the space we can't defend? Oh, you're my twin, you know, I can't deny. Here's a guess about the rest. They'll light the fires on the shore of Lake Marie, and I'll take an oar and leave the shore further out into uncertainty. And I know you see yourself in me, and I know you see yourself in me. I know you see yourself in me. I know you see yourself in me. I'm your twin, you know. 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 Let's see. How are we doing on time here? So those are 2 new songs. Those are songs that are going to be on my next record. Thanks, Paul. And Melanie, but 2 Hearts. That's a song for my one and only Melanie Delgado. Loosely based on our meeting. We met by chance in San Diego. I was working in a grocery store, and I was 1 year sober. I was trying to quit drinking, and ironically, I was in charge of the beer and wine section at a grocery store, and I spent 8 hours a day stacking beer and wine into creative stacks and filling holes in the cold area where the people came and bought the beer. And I did all the ordering, and that was my job, and I hated my job, and I hated myself, and people were really rude at the grocery store, and I would follow them out into the parking lot and try to fight them. And my boss would tell me that you're not allowed to do that, and and that's how I met Melanie. She would come in every Sunday, and because she had a group of friends she would hang out with on Sunday, and she would, after hanging out with them, she'd come in and talk to me and flirt with me. And she was the first, I don't know how to put it. I mean, she was the first like decent woman I'd ever met who showed any interest in me. That wasn't totally insane. And I thought that I wasn't sure, I thought that I wanted to ask her out, and then I followed her out into the parking lot once. But I got scared and turned around and went back inside, and then she came in the next time and asked me out, and the rest is history. So that song is kind of about meeting your twin when you're 40 years old after a lifetime of bizarre circumstances. So, I have a few things I still want to get to. Anyway, that song's for Melanie. I love you, Melanie. Tom is still here. All right. Besides La Super Cocina, we did get to go to Super Cocina. Yes, she is the best thing that ever happened to me. Super Cocina being a close second. If you're ever in San Diego, go to Super Cocina. That's right. Oh, goodness. Well, it's almost been an hour, but for those of you that are here with me, let's see. It's close, right? Love. There is a loose theme here in MXDTV episode 22, and the theme is love, destiny, chance, right? Free will, all of those things, and then of course the subtext is wickedness, the wasps, and the presence of evil in the human condition. I think I'm going to read this. I was going to read this a couple of shows ago. I read this book, and it's called Blood Meridian, and it's one of the most fascinating books I've ever read. And I just want to read this one short little part. The protagonist of this book belongs to a group of marauders and criminals who were hired by the Mexican government to collect scalps of the Apaches. And they get paid money for scalps, and they ride around the frontier, or the plains, or, the Southwest, in the South, just killing they don't just kill Apaches, they kill everybody in their path and collect their scalps and get paid for it until time runs out for them and people get wise to what they're doing. It's a really dark book. it's brilliant. It's poetic. It's hard to tell what's going on in the book the whole time. So even as I read this passage, you may get confused, but just kind of try to dig it. It's towards the end of the book, and the main character of this book, they call the kid, encounters a buffalo hunter at night, and he sees his camp, and he goes over to it, and he talks to this man who was who hunted buffalo, and I just find it fascinating. I'm going to read it really quick. It's not that long, but I apologize in advance if it's weird and you can't dig it, but you might be able to dig it. I'm going to try it. This is chapter 23 of Blood Meridian, and I'm just going to read you this first little bit. It goes like this. In the late winter of 1878, he was on the plains of North Texas. He crossed the double mountain fork of the Brazos River on a morning when skim ice lay along the sandy shore, and he rode through a dark dwarf forest of black and twisted mesquite trees. He made his camp that night on a piece of high ground where there was a windbreak formed of a tree felled by lightning. He'd no sooner got his fire to burn than he saw, across the prairie in the darkness, another fire. Like his, it twisted in the wind. Like his, it warmed one man alone. It was an old hunter in camp, and the hunter shared tobacco with him and told him of the buffalo and the stands he'd made against them, laid up in a sag on some rise with the dead animals scattered over the grounds, and the herd beginning to mill, and the rifle barrel so hot the wiping patches sizzled in the bore, and the animals by the thousands and tens of thousands, and the hides pegged out over actual square miles of ground, and the teams of skimmers spelling one another around the clock, and the shooting and shooting weeks and months till the boar shot slick and the stock shot loose at the tang, and their shoulders were yellow and blue to the elbow, and the tandem wagons groaned away over the prairie, 20 and 22 ox teams, and the flint hides by the ton and 100-ton, and the meat rotting on the ground, and the air whining with flies, and the buzzards and ravens, and the night a horror of snarling and feeding with the wolves, half crazed and wallowing in the carrion. I seen Studebaker wagons with 6 and 8 ox teams headed out for the grounds, not hauling a thing but lead. Just pure galena, tons of it. On this ground alone, between the Arkansas River and the Concho, there was 8 million carcasses, for that's how many hides reached the railhead. 2 years ago, we pulled out from Griffin for our last hunt. We ransacked the country. 6 weeks. Finally found a herd of 8 animals, and we killed them and come in. They're gone. Every one of them that God ever made is gone, as if they'd never been at all. The ragged sparks blew down the wind. The prairie about them lay silent. Beyond the fire it was cold, and the night was clear, and the stars were falling. The old hunter pulled his blanket about him. I wonder if there's other worlds like this, he said, or if this is the only one. It's hard to tell, but in there it switches from description to the hunter talking, and it kind of flip-flops, but he just describing how they killed every buffalo there was. And that seems to be a common human trait, to just use up all the resources until there's none left. It's not, we're pretty hard on humans that we're the only ones that are wasteful, and we give animals a pass like they're noble, and humans are the only ones that hurt each other and take until there's nothing left. And it's just not true. I see it in nature too. Outside of our house, we have a bird feeder, and we feed these birds. We have this something called the cardinal mix, and we put it in this bird feeder. And we also put some out on this plate, and so for the chipmunks and the squirrels. And we've been doing that for a while, and the longer we've been doing it, more and more birds and chipmunks and squirrels are showing up. And they just are like burning through all of the seed. And today we went out there and we had filled it up this morning, and they had eaten all the seed and then knocked the bird feeder to the ground and broke it. And it was just laying there in pieces. And so the birds did it too, you know. I'm going to play one more song, and then I'm going to read one more poem. I'm going to play this song off of my new record. It's called Conquistador Blues. It's written for my grandfather and my father. My grandfather's from Spain. I didn't know him that well. He died when I was pretty young. He killed himself. He shot himself. And he wasn't from what I understand, he wasn't a pleasant man. He was a harsh man, and he was a disciplinarian. And my father was too, but compared to his father, my dad was a saint. And, you know, and there, you know, it just, the personality keeps like evolving down the chain. The Delgado male personality. I'm just one in a long line of these guys. So this is called Conquistador Blues. And there you stood on furrowed ground, where you once were king. And now you sit with your Spanish dolls. The bullfights on TV, set in your ways. Never came around. The son that you raised was the one who brought me down. And on your river runs. Lonely San Joaquin, from the banks of a mighty flood, arose an angry sea. And I couldn't be tamed. Settle down. Boy, his sun rays was the one who let him down. Stole I had a few more things I was going to do, but I'm going to just, it's 10 after. It's been about an hour and 10 minutes. There's still some people hanging on, and I appreciate that. And I want to end with this poem because I've read this poem before. Thanks, Vicky. That's my sis. I've read this poem before, but this is has to do with my eternal struggle with the Wasps and raising my child and being married and living here in upstate New York, and my father's passing. And this is a poem. This is what I'm going to finish with tonight. So if you tuned in, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here, Tom. Thanks for being here, Russ, Paul, Melanie, Joseph, Vicky. Is today your birthday, Vicky? Happy, almost, right. Okay. Anyway, this is a poem called, I'm going to need my glasses. This is a poem called Light is Transitory and Always Failing. It's for my father. It's in sections, and they're numbered, so I'll say the number of each section. Section 1. My daughter was 4 when we were attacked by wasps in the front yard of our house in upstate New York, where we weathered the early years of her life, the pandemic, and my father's death. I was stung first. A dark scout from a nest in the ground crept inside the lip of my boot and pierced my calf, a signal to the rest to defend the queen at all costs. 2. I traveled a great distance to be there at the foot of a mountain on the edge of a wood, all the way from the San Joaquin Valley, where summer chokes the light, and light is transitory and always failing. Where I spoke a very particular language, drug talk, private slang, free verse and slant rhymes, stuff I picked up on basketball courts on the west side, twitching at the elbow of the free throw line, trying to shake a defender to execute my signature mid-range jumper or drive hard to the rim. Leaving the ground with the ease I had then, my head humming with Mexican red hair sensimilla and gangsters' voices echoing off the hardwood and vaulted ceilings of home's playground gymnasium. 3. Huddled in the dark pews of the south wing, chewing the shit out of my cheek, and Peter Everwine trembling from the podium at the Art Museum on Dakota and Clinton, where just outside the shrouded wolves waited, and inside I was learning how to use words and images to change the dismal scenery of the Central Valley and the seemingly hopelessness of my cause. It was the first time I had heard a wrist compared to a star. Or anything, really. What an elegant word, wrist. Oh, what an infinitesimal piece of dust I was then. 4. Anyway, it broke the monotony and violence into stanzas, and I took up with the bruised and angry motel girls on Golden State Boulevard along Freeway 99. 5. I thought then that I wanted to become a minister, and I chose a path not unlike Jesus, who also favored the company of prostitutes, and walked out across the water, and spoke to fishermen from the impossible twinkling waves, and laid waste to the money changers with a whip he must have borrowed, or up until then kept like a secret to himself, and who knew he knew how to use such a thing? Who knew? Once, evangelizing on the street, the group I was with turned their backs on a drunk, begging for change. And they did it, I know, because they knew not what it was to need a drink. And so, they missed an opportunity for salvation. After all, was it not Christ himself, torn and bleeding, beat all the way down to shit, asking for $1 or $2 there on Olive Avenue among the lepers and the stoned? Earl the Pearl, whirling with his hand out, a human turnstile. 6. We had stumbled upon something as old as a hive of wasps buried in the ground. An invisible pestilence moving from one pair of lungs to another, one cruel gesture at a time, blacked out beneath a swarm of bees. It came to nothing, my wanting to be a priest or a scholar. In my mind, it was the same thing. Whip merchants, piss off Pharisees, write a poem about the futility of fishing, and finally bring the adrift back to the shore, one by one, to breathe relief. But I guess I didn't know how tough things had become. Christ. 7. My father departed this earth in stages. It makes sense when you think about it. His mind cut out before his body did. He was a marathon runner, and the whole gist is to turn off the brain and settle into some type of rhythm despite the pain. He did, however, go down swinging at the minimum wage workers and indifferent bureaucrats who had assumed control of his life. He was a man who had learned about freedom on his own terms. Time, his nemesis and companion, he mastered the sub-6-minute mile and the 8-hour-plus workday, then in glue-gunned shoes left the earth in long, exploratory flights of time and space and endurance. You don't need that, he would tell me whenever I was in the throes of desire or dissatisfaction. He would point to my shoes in disarray on the floor and say, "Fix that." 8. What can I tell my daughter after such a vicious assault? That it's going to be okay? We sit up in bed late into the night in the dark and talk, sometimes to each other, other times to our invisible and old companions that we have imagined or endured, and we secretly listen in on each other's conversations, amending and smiling into the parts of the story that make no sense. There's a handful of you still here with me. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being here. MXDTV. We'll be back next week. Same time. Same time next week. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. West. And thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Have a good night.